I will call the meeting to order at 6:05 p.m. Mr. Truesdale will lead us in roll call. The invocation, this evening will be led by Councilwoman Rawls, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Councilman Jones. For communications this evening, we are joined by Ms. Denise Hill, who serves as the president of the Capital Area Coalition on Homelessness, or CASH, and Ms. Randy Yeager, who serves as the secretary. We will then open the floor for courtesy of the floor, followed by approval of minutes for the legislative session that occurred on January 9th, 2024. We have 2 reports of committees. The first will be shared on behalf of Chair Daniels, on behalf of the Community and Economic Development Committee on the work session of January 16th, 2024, followed by a report from Chair Rodriguez on behalf of the Public Works Committee on the work session that occurred on January 16th, 2024. We have 1 ordinance for first reading, that's Bill 1 of 2024. We have no ordinances for amendment or final passage. We'll then move to resolutions. Resolution 2 of 2024, we will vote upon. Resolution 3 of 2024 will move to the Budget and Finance Committee. Resolution 4 of 2024 will move to the Building and Housing Committee. Resolution 5 of 2024 will move to the Administration Committee. Resolution 6 of 2024 will move to the Administration Committee. And Resolution 7 of 2024 will move to the Public Works Committee. Is there any old business, council members? Seeing and hearing none, any new business?
Yes, Madam President.
Okay.
I just wanted to send a reminder for Hotspot Saturday's new dates and information about tomorrow's Parent Task Force.
Thank you. Any other new business?
At the moment, no, but I may have some about things that are happening in Harrisburg this weekend.
Okay, thank you. And then we will adjourn. So the time is 6:05 p.m. I will officially call our legislative session to order. Mr. Truesdale, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Daniels?
Here.
Ms. Davis? Ms. Green?
Present.
Mr. Jones?
Present.
Ms. Rawls?
Present.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Present.
Ms. Bowers?
Present, thank you. The invocation this evening will be led by Councilwoman Rawls.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Over the weekend, although it wasn't in Harrisburg City, it was in our surrounding area, there were 2 fatal fires. So I would just like to take a moment to keep those families in our hearts and our minds, because they may have family members within the city, but even if they do not, I just want to give a moment of silence of them and prayers if you would like at that time. So let's please just take a moment of silence. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Councilman Jones.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilwoman Rawls and Councilman Jones. We will now move forward with our meeting agenda. We have communications, a presentation by the Capital Area Coalition on Homelessness. We're joined by Ms. Denise Hill, who serves as the president, and Ms. Randy Yeager, who serves as the secretary. And I'm sorry I don't know the third person joining you this evening. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself once you all.
Absolutely. I'm Dr. Amber Borelli, and I'm the treasurer of CASH's board.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to greet you all, and I will be actually turning the presentation over to Randy Yeager, who is the Secretary of Cash. Thank you for having us tonight.
Good evening. Thank you so much to the council for inviting us on behalf of the Capital Area Coalition on Homelessness to present this evening. As you've heard, I'm the Cash Secretary. Just for clarity, I also want to point out I'm the Human Services Director for Dauphin County. And in that role, I take the concerns of cash very seriously because these concerns affect all of our families and individuals and community members. So I just want to kind of give you some updates about what has been happening within the coalition. As you may know, we are a private nonprofit. And we have over 70 organizations, agencies, churches, other nonprofit entities, and we mobilize to bring resources to help our area's individuals and families who are both homeless, also called unsheltered, and also at risk of becoming homeless. So it's a pretty broad scope. Over the past few years, we've put our efforts into the following areas. Mobile and organized outreach efforts to engage and support our unsheltered residents. We could not do this without a team approach, and I just want to mention a few entities that are vital to that outreach. Downtown Daily Bread, UPMC nursing staff, crisis intervention staff through my departments, Christian Churches United, drug and alcohol services through the county department as well. There are staff and numerous organizations who provide these services and supports that I haven't mentioned, and I'm not counting them out, but I don't want to list 70 organizations for you tonight. We couldn't do it without everybody's help. We've also expanded the need for showers and laundry services for our unsheltered residents. I want to make special note of Downtown Daily Bread, who have expanded under the new leadership, expanded times and availability of showers. A Miracle for Sure has stepped up during the pandemic and offered their location not only for showers multiple times throughout the week, but also laundry services, which are really challenging. And of course, Fox's Laundry Services has been providing that for a long time, and I want to thank them for their continued support of these efforts. We have been working hard to support the development of affordable and accessible housing options for our community members. We do follow HUD's Housing First model, and this also includes landlord recruitment. We've been working with both the Dauphin County Housing Authority as well as the Harrisburg Housing Authority. We have worked on access to help individuals obtain their Pennsylvania state ID and birth certificates, which are required for certain funded programs through our continuum of care. The continuum of care, it is not simply a grant writing exercise. It actually figures out where the most needs are in our community and then requests funding through HUD. And when that funding comes to cash, it actually doesn't come to the entity. It goes directly to those services that are being provided across our community. So currently, our cash COC awardees include the YWCA, Christian Churches United for both the Safe Haven and Rapid Rehousing Program, Shalom, Delta Housing, the Housing Authority of Dauphin County, and historically, Brethren Housing. Brethren Housing Association chose to work with Delta, and so Delta will be taking over those particular niches. These collaborative efforts bring well over $1.5 million to our area annually. We also engage people with lived experience in the planning for the coalition and the continuum of care. It's important that we hear directly from individuals who are experienced or have experienced homelessness challenges. We are responsible, as I said, for the HUD application for the continuum, but we also provide local homeless service providers with much needed support. And I'll just list a few. CASH has some priorities, and it's based on the needs of our community. Those with serious mental illness, veterans, survivors of domestic violence, those individuals with physical disabilities, families with children, and older adults. However, we need all the help we can get because there are people of all ages that experience homelessness, either chronic or from time to time. There are 4 projects that the coalition has supported specifically, and we are hoping that the county and the city together can support these 4 entities: Fair Housing Council, Brethren Housing Association for expansion of their services, the Veterans Outreach of Pennsylvania, the Tiny Home Village, and Thrive Housing. Thrive Housing is one of the few entities I just want to point out. During the pandemic, they actually expanded what they were doing, and they did it within 30 days. So that was pretty incredible at the time. So we appreciate all of those entities, and we have been working collaboratively with both the county and city entities that could provide some home ARP funding for those. So when that application comes out, the coalition and these 4 projects are ready for review. This is certainly a team effort, as I mentioned. We have many caring providers and community members across our region. It is critical, though, that we provide individualized plans, and those plans are based on trusted relationships, and that's really sometimes hard to achieve, to build that level of trust, but when we do, we hold that very valuable. And these trusted relationships help individuals and families move into permanent housing options. We still have much work to do together. And in 2024, I think our biggest challenge is our residents who are currently at the PennDOT encampment. We have an urgent need, as you know, because of the I-83 bridge expansion, and we want to create opportunities for our unhoused individuals at that location, because not everyone is going to want to do the same thing in terms of what works for them. I know we have a number of individuals, some who are veterans, who do not want to be indoors at all. And there are some reasons for that, and we need to respect those reasons and figure out multiple solutions. So, you know, part of the coalition, and what I appreciate about it, is we can talk about the needs and we can work together to figure out who can do a little bit more of what aspect. And so that's what we would also be looking for in 2024. I do want to point out that Dauphin County, wearing my Dauphin County hat just for a moment, we have, since 2020, we have applied for every grant possible related to emergency solutions, our HAP funding, Homeless Assistance Program, excuse me for the acronyms, and that has brought over $2 million into this area, and most of those funds went to entities that are here within the city limits. I'd like to emphasize the importance of the city's willingness to help us develop that plan, approve a plan, and that, you know, it involves all the homeless services and providers and stakeholders to address these immediate concerns and ultimately the long-term concerns related to chronic homelessness. So I'm going to pause there. I brought everything you might need, so I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. I think the information is very helpful. There was a request made at the end of last year for you all to come and discuss the actions that you've taken. It's nice to know the funding that has been dispersed throughout the city in various capacities. So thank you for that. I don't have any questions, but I will open up the floor to my colleagues to determine if they have any. I'll begin with Councilwoman Daniels. Any questions?
Sure. This is, I mean, I could look look this up, but since you're in front of me, I've asked folks what are the data sources for figuring out the percentage of people who are like at the encampments that are employed? Is that data out there somewhere?
So that is one question that we don't ask as part of our point in time count, but we could. It's coming up tomorrow. We could try to get some data for you. I can tell you that based on the volume of calls that we get in Dauphin County Human Services, many of our individuals are working. There are also a pool of individuals that are not working but are on some type of support based on their individual concerns. And so, the challenge is there are many different types of situations that lead to homelessness, and that's why that individual plan is so critical. But I don't have a working number for you.
And do you know of any other organization that might have it? That might have that?
I only have anecdotal information. I will tell you that there are some employers here downtown that have worked really, really well with our homeless individuals, offering them employment, training them, and they are now working. I know that let me ask Downtown Daily Pred, and I can get that information back to the council.
Thank you. And then in terms of the funding that's come, how many people has that funding helped?
So each organization is required to submit their reports directly to HUD. So the COC, cash, applies for the grant, but we don't get access to that data. It's a direct contract, if you will, with HUD. So how many individuals? I mean, it's hundreds for sure. I would venture to guess it's definitely over 1,000, but there are different types of services. So it's case management, and it's rapid rehousing, and it's shelter care. So we're, I don't have that.
Okay. And perhaps through Ms. Hill, if you can share with us the list of the organizations that she referenced earlier by email.
Certainly. I'll make sure that I get all 70 plus, and then I'll send them to the clerk's office to send out.
That would be great. Thank you. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Councilwoman Davis, do you have any questions?
Yes. Thank you, President Bowers. First, I want to commend you and thank you for the important work that you're doing and the success that you've had so far. And I've heard of most of the agencies that you mentioned. One that I have not heard of, I'd just like to know where they are located. It's the Thrive Housing.
Yeah, so they have, their administrative offices are, I believe, in Pembroke, but a lot of their housing, available housing that they also provide case management for is located in the city. And Dee Allen is the, I guess, CEO. It's a family operation, and we appreciate that because the whole family is involved in ensuring that our residents are safe and provided the appropriate level of care. What is unique about Dee is she tries to support young adults, which is a challenging population to engage sometimes, and she's able to do that, and we really appreciate that. The other thing is there's scattered sites, so it complies with all of the Housing First and scattered site regulations that HUD prefers.
Okay, thank you for that. And then finally, what is the percentage of permanent housing that you provided in 2023? Do you know that offhand?
The percentage of permanent housing. Percentage based on our current homeless population.
What is the percent of the housing, the total housing that you've provided, permanent housing? What percentage would you say is successful and is ongoing?
Of our individuals who were unhoused?
Yes.
I would say about 10%.
Okay. About 10%, okay.
And it's based on resources. If we had, so the definition, from my perspective, on low-income housing, I think varies depending on who you talk to. So some of our unhoused individuals, based on their income, which could be $927 a month. So with that level of income, low-income housing becomes between $200 and $300 what they can afford, and that is extremely hard to find anywhere.
Right, so with the permanent housing, are you putting one individual in one home, or are you putting a group of people into permanent housing? Just curious to know how that's all working.
So that really depends on the family structure.
Okay,
And so, you know, there are families who need 3 bedrooms because there may be multiple children, and there are families of 1 or 2. So that really depends on the individual's need.
thank you again for that. A lot of times I think when people hear of homelessness, they think of one person, just individuals, but there are actually families out there who are homeless. So
Absolutely.
that's all the questions I have, but thank you again for your work.
Thank you. Vice President Green?
Thank you, President Bowers. I don't really have any questions for you. I do thank you for all the work that you do. It's an important service to the city and to the residents of the city. A lot of times people don't think of unhoused people in the city as residents of the city, but they are residents of the city. And as I always say, one tragedy and that could be you. You know, so don't put yourself on a pedestal. Things happen all the time. Fires happen. People lose jobs. So the work that you do is very important, and it impacts so many people here in the city. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rawls?
Thank you, President Bowers, and I thank all 3 of you for being here tonight and answering our questions, but also giving us information. I would say a few meetings ago, or 2 meetings, we had a few residents come, and they were rightfully so upset about some of our residents who were unhoused being moved spontaneously to different places, and they had a few concerns. So I'm really glad you came, and I hope they're listening tonight, because I think you gave them some information. But I had 2 questions off of both their visits that they came. One, I was wondering, when our Harrisburg residents who are unhoused were moved, were you all able to help? Like, what kind of help did you provide for them? Knowing that they were moved spontaneously, not to anyone's fault, not blaming anybody, but just saying, since they were moved, what kind of assistance did you give them?
So outreach teams go out multiple times a week. I will tell you that, for example, the UPMC nurses, sometimes they're out daily to support our residents who need physical care. So it depends on what an individual would be open to hearing about. And, you know, part of this work is building relationships. And although there are services and supports, not everyone wants those. The other thing is there are waiting lists. There are so many resources that we have to offer. And so for example, our coordinated entry system, they were offered an opportunity to get on that list, but that requires us to sit down. And when I say us, in this case, it's Christian Churches United. Ms. Newton leads that effort, and she sits down with everybody individually or by phone, whatever they prefer, and we do an intake. And then those intakes are used to determine high needs and low needs and try to match the right housing support system with that individual's needs. And that's not taken lightly, but it is, there is a waiting list because we don't have enough programs to support everyone.
Thank you for that.
Can I just add?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So the housing interventions did run the gamut with that relocation.
Okay.
Some we identified that they have family out of state. So resources were provided for them to actually relocate once it was identified that if they got there, they would have a safe, stable place to stay with family, things of that nature. Christian Churches United was able to work with some neighbors to be housed based on their income. So knowing that a particular encampment was no longer available at that time, then they chose to move. I know at least one, maybe two, actually went into rehab services. So
You did
it
say that.
runs the
Okay.
gamut of, but that speaks to what Randy was saying about the individual plan.
Right.
There's just no cookie cutter answer. So that's what makes the work that these service providers do so phenomenal, because they are able to identify what each person needs and then respect the choice of what they're willing to work with us to do.
Right, correct. Thank you so much. And you answered my second question, because that's what I was wondering. And that was what some of the community members, I think they didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. So it was what's happening, how are they being helped, who has been contacted to make sure they're being helped. So I'm glad you said you did contact somebody. You did get help out there because you knew they were going to be relocated. So you gave them support to whoever wanted it, and you were able to help some people, and some people, like, they don't want the support, and that's okay, because everyone is different, and I think it's just respecting everyone and how they want to live. My last question was, if community members want to help or just want to be listened to about this situation, is there a number they can call? Because sometimes people just want to be able to say, hey, I have this solution, or can I say this to you? Is there any way that they can reach out and be heard or help in any way?
Yeah, so I would say Cash is currently going through a transition, so do you mind if I give him my number?
I was going to give them mine.
Okay. Okay, so my office is the Human Services Director's Office at Dauphin County, and that is 717-780-6288. And again, you would ask for the Human Services Director's Office. And then just to follow up in one area, our outreach teams are out multiple times a week. So all of these services and supports that are offered when movements need to take place are offered throughout the year, every week, multiple times a week. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. Sorry.
Thank you. I'm glad you said that.
And then I'll also add my number. I'm here on the second floor, 717-255-6411.
Thank you both so much. All three of you. Thank you. That's it for me, President Bowers.
Thank you. Councilman Rodriguez?
Thank you, Madam President. No questions for me. I'm highly familiar with the work with George and Mr. Darrow and the whole team. Work well with Ms. D with my position in the daytime, so highly recommended. Send a lot of families through, to and from, so keep up the great work, and thank you guys.
Thank you. Councilman Jones?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Excuse me. You guys do great work. I'm very familiar as well as Mr. Rodriguez of a lot of the work that you guys do, and some of my questions were answered, but I'll take a little deeper dive into it. Just so, like, what other services outside of the basic needs of the unhoused do people provide? I mean, you had 70 plus organizations, so I guess I can frame the question like this: is there information sharing? So I think that will help sort out a lot of it, because you're going to run through a whole bunch of people that have different needs. When you're doing those assessments, and that's a part of my second question, when you're doing the assessments, how deep do they go? Because when we look at the unhoused or homelessness, this is, some of it's a state of mind, right? It's not just a thing, a place that they landed there. So for me, I know I love all of the organizations that go out and feed people and give them some clothes. I want to know what's wrong. How did you get here? Because if I'm giving you this hot meal today, 5 years from now, you shouldn't be still in this line. So there are things like workforce development. I've worked with some of the unhoused under Mulberry Street Bridge and gotten them employment, and of course they got jobs, cars, apartments, and stuff like that now. So that's good. So I want to see how many of those service providers are actually doing that type of work, taking a deeper dive into what's really going on with those individuals, if they're willing to share it.
Yeah, so I think it varies by service type and by the providers. It also varies, so with the Housing First model, HUD requires our COC providers, our continuum of care providers, to get people housed, period. And so the other services and supports that you're talking about, the ongoing case management, kind of that deeper dive, which of course as the Human Services Director are near and dear to my heart, but isn't a requirement, and nor do they really want folks going there, because oftentimes those concerns may cause someone to pause and not accept the housing, right? If it comes with strings,
What you mean, that the individual won't accept
the
it?
individual.
Okay.
Right. So housing first motto is really get folks housed no matter what, and do it as quickly as possible, and then let them decide if they want ongoing services.
I
And
got
that's
you.
the tricky part, because all of those services are voluntary. And so they are offered. I think part of the complexity too is there may be, well, with individuals with highly complex needs or families with complex needs, they can only, just like you and me, they can only do one thing at a time, right? And so what is the biggest priority? That's what we start with, and that's housing. And then all the other things, we just take one step at a time. And it's those relationships, those trusted relationships, that really help folks navigate through all the other needs that they may have, so that they don't experience homelessness in the future. But that's the hard part. Housing is hard, but the harder part is speaking to kind of
Right.
what you're getting at in terms of what else is happening that needs support.
Yeah, and I understand that. Again, when you do an eval on someone, they may not be forthcoming with some of the information, so some of those areas go untreated. So it is tricky work. Being in the reentry space, I go through it as well, right? They never tell you everything, because, oh, I'm gonna have to do this program, I'm gonna have, and you know, a lot of those restrictions will deter people from actually giving you true information. But the last question that I would have for you, I know that there's a lot of families and there are a lot of people that are unhoused. How many of them, and I don't want to say, give me a percentage, but you know, there are so many young people that are unhoused as well, and what type of services, these same services, are, because they may have different needs. It could be getting them trained up and educating, getting GED, getting them ready to be employed. So I want to know how many of those organizations are actually giving that attention to some of the youth that are unhoused.
Yeah, so we actually had a whole coalition session around services that are available for not only youth under the age of 18, but also young adults. A lot of those services are provided through my Children and Youth Department, and there's funding available for youth and young adults who have been in the system in foster care or some other type of service as a child. They have access to a lot of these funds. I will tell you, the criteria is numerous, and it's a little complicated, and that's why I rely on my team members at Children and Youth to help us navigate that. That's actually first how we got involved. The county got involved with Thrive because we contracted with them to provide some of those supportive services and really reach those young people where they were at, build that relationship, and then we worked on housing. So there are services for youth and young adults. I would just ask folks, if they know of a young person, particularly those under the age of 18, please refer them to Children and Youth, because there are services and supports out there. And we also, I'll just put a plug out there, we need all the foster care homes that we can find. Because we don't want our children going into group home settings when they really need a family.
All right, that's about sums it up for me. Thank you guys. Or you had something else? Okay. Yeah, I think you guys are doing a tremendous job. Last question, I know I said that before, but I keep hearing you say a lot of the funding comes through HUD versus cash, right? So HUD is the actual fiduciary here?
Yep.
Make sure of you.
HUD has the funding, and the county and the city has different grant opportunities, like the Emergency Solutions Grant, which since 2020 totaled about $2 million for the county. That's just the county money. So there's lots of different sources coming together, and that's why I can't emphasize enough how much of a team effort this is, and we appreciate the city in this work.
All right, thank you. No more questions, President.
Are you sure? Just kidding. Thank you. Thank you all for your questions. Thank you for your responses and taking the time to participate in our meeting this evening. We appreciate it.
And we will certainly follow up with the data.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Next, we have courtesy of the floor. So just a few housekeeping notes before we begin. Please state your name and your address for the meeting record. If you don't feel comfortable sharing your address, please share the vicinity in which you live within the city. You will have 4 minutes to share your comments. Mr. Truesdale will serve as our timekeeper, and I will begin to my right. Is there anyone that would like to offer public comment? Seeing and hearing no one. Anyone in the middle section? Okay. Seeing and hearing no one. Anyone to my left? Seeing and hearing no one. All right. We will move forward with our meeting agenda. Next, we have approval of minutes for the legislative session that occurred on January 9th, 2024. Council members, are there any revisions to those minutes? Okay, seeing and hearing none, the minutes stand approved. Next, we have reports of committees. You will hear 2 committee reports this evening. The first will be delivered by Chair Daniels on behalf of the Community and Economic Development Committee on the work session of January 16th, 2024. Chair Daniels?
Thank you. So on January 16th, the Community and Economic Development Committee heard from Mr. Brian Davis, who's the Executive Director of the Harrisburg Redevelopment Authority, regarding a variety of tools that currently exist to address blight in the city. So he basically offered a little bit of a primer. Since then, he has also forwarded the documentation so that council could get an understanding of how the different structures work. And our goal is to have a continued conversation with him after people have time to review. And that's it.
Thank you. The second report you will hear this evening will be delivered by Chair Rodriguez on behalf of the Public Works Committee on the work session of January 16th, 2024. Chair Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam President. On Tuesday, January 16th, the Harrisburg City Council held a work session in which the Public Works Committee conducted business in. There was one resolution to discuss, and that was Resolution 2 of 2024. Resolution 2 of 2024 is a resolution authorizing an addendum to the professional service agreement with Daewoo Engineering Incorporated to provide services to the city engineer for the city of Harrisburg. Although the language was not project-specific in the resolution, during the session, we were told that this is State Street project geared specifically. Joining us was Mr. West from Daewoo Engineering and Harrisburg engineer, Mr. Snow. The committee chairman asked a series of questions, as well as council, pertaining to the fiscal priority of the request. Mr. West stated, due to the State Street project starting, stopping, then stopping again, the allocations previously distributed to his firm will not be efficient to complete the State Street project in totality. The sum requested was $25,000. This has been agreed on during the work session that this should be enough to complete the project and allow the city's engineer to take back the sole responsibility of engineering for the city of Harrisburg. And that concludes the work of the Public Works Committee business for the work session of January 16th of 2024. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much. We have one ordinance for first reading. That's Bill 1 of 2024. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Bill 1, 2024, an ordinance amending the City of Harrisburg's official zoning map to change the parcel zoning designation of 208 Hummel Street from the residential medium density zone to the commercial neighborhood zone pursuant to Chapter 7303 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Harrisburg.
Thank you. Bill 1 of 2024 will move to the Community and Economic Development Committee. We do not have any ordinances for amendment or ordinances for final passage. We will move to resolutions. Resolution 2 of 2024. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 2, 2024, a resolution authorizing an addendum to the professional services agreement with Daewoo Engineering Incorporated to provide services to the city engineer for the city of Harrisburg.
Thank you. Council members, are there any questions, comments, or concerns related to Resolution 2 of 2024? Okay, seeing and hearing none, Mr. Truesdale, could you please call the vote?
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yay.
Ms. Rawls,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Bowers.
Yes.
Resolution 2, 2024 passes by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Resolution 3 of 2024. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 3, 2024, a resolution authorizing the City of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into a collection agreement with the Harrisburg School District for the collection of the business privilege and mercantile tax and the amusement tax for the 2024 tax year.
Thank you. Resolution 3 of 2024 will move to the Budget and Finance Committee. Next, we have Resolution 4 of 2024. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 4, 2024, a resolution appointing Mr. James Hobbs to serve on the Zoning Hearing Board of the City of Harrisburg.
Thank you. Resolution 4 of 2024 will move to the Building and Housing Committee. Next, we have Resolution 5 of 2024. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 5, 2024, a resolution authorizing the City of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into a professional services agreement with Reynolds Construction, LLC, doing business as Site Log IQ, to develop a comprehensive 5-year capital improvement program.
Thank you. Resolution 5 of 2024 will move to the Administration Committee. Next, we have Resolution 6 of 2024. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 6, 2024, a resolution authorizing the City of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into a professional services agreement with Halcyon Interpreting Services, LLC, to provide sign language interpreting services.
Thank you. Resolution 6 of 2024 will move to the Administration Committee. The final resolution for consideration this evening is Resolution 7 of 2024. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 7, 2024, a resolution ratifying a services contract with Penn Waste Incorporated to continue to serve as the city's single-stream recycling disposal service.
Thank you. Resolution 7 of 2024 will move to the Public Works Committee. Is there any old business, council members?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know if this goes to Ms. Rawls or Mr. Grover, but it's been about 2 years now since we've been alerted to the lack of constitutionality of our park permitting process. When do we expect to?
So one, I would disagree with you on the lack of constitutionality. That's the allegation that's been made by a vendor. The claim was that we do not allow events or we do it arbitrarily in the city, which is simply not true. There are many, many protests in this city with no notice to anyone. But that matter is pending in front of the district court. There was a very, very long negotiation that ended in no resolution, and it was sent back to the trial judge. There is an amended complaint supposedly coming. I have not seen it. We have not received it yet that I know of, unless our outside lawyers just got it in the last day or two. So the status is it's sort of sitting where it's sitting. And I think they want to add another issue, which I'm not going to go into because I don't know if they're going to add it or not, unrelated to all of these things.
Well, I think the issue is that we'll have ongoing liability, and unless the issue is addressed, we're going to consistently have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of liability if we don't.
So I'm unaware of anyone's rights to protest, to gather, to do anything being denied in the city of Harrisburg. I am aware that there are other events that are murky about where the courts have drawn some murky lines, and they're very hard for individuals on the streets to sort out sometimes. I mean, I have yet to encounter a single instance where the initial report that I get turns out to be the facts that we can find. And we actually look at the tapes, we actually look at the information, we actually look at the timeline. It is always different. It's just like you're reading a social media post and it says something, and when you fill in the picture, it's not what it was said to be.
Yeah, but when we don't have a process, we kind of open ourselves up, to a lot of claims. And I think it would be helpful if we had a process.
I'm happy to discuss with you what kind of process you're thinking about and what process you think doesn't exist in the city. We are about as flexible as we have to be because we're the state capital. I mean, we just are. I mean, you've been here. We've literally shut down our streets with people that aren't from the city. We've had protests with one sign, and we've had protests with 10,000 signs. So, you know, you can't treat that in a uniform pattern. And so you have to address it on the ground as it's coming. We could and most likely will get to something that's a modernization, I would say, but not at the cost of writing a blank check. And that's.
What do you mean the cost? I mean, right now we're just open. I mean, we're really just open.
I respectfully disagree with you. So there is. We have not lost a trial in the 10 years that I've been here.
Well, we haven't gone to trial because
We have gone to trial on some things, but we have not lost a trial in the 10 years that I've been here. We're careful about what we do. We're careful about what we settle.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other old business? Okay, seeing and hearing none. New business, Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam President. Just as a reminder, Hotspot Saturday, 24, will be gearing up with the first cleanup being the Earth Day cleanup at 4:20, followed by May 18th, June 29th, July 20th, August 24th, and of course, concluding with the Labor Day cleanup on September 7th. If you want to volunteer or want more information, you can call the clerk's office here at 717-255-6500 or email me directly at rrodriguez@harrisburgpa.gov. Also, please remember that tomorrow we will continue our parent task force that City Council has partnered with the Harrisburg School District and the administration just to be solution-driven and have some great speakers and just really address the issues that the parents have and a lot of concerns here in the city. So we will be here in council chambers from 5 to 7 p.m. tomorrow for the parent task force. So once again, for more information, you could reach out to the clerk's office at 717-255-6500 or email me directly at rrodriguez@harrisburgpa.gov. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Any other new business? Okay, seeing and hearing none. The time is 6:50 p.m. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We stand adjourned.